cameras to the left. Yours is already recording. People do pass through this lot, so just be mindful of people walking by and going to their vehicles. So, where the heck are we? We're in a parking lot. Congratulations. I told you I'm taking you to weird spots around town that the other tours don't go to, but this place used to be something. By the way, did anybody else hear anything? So, Kim, did you get anything yet?
65, just now.
65. Got nothing on that, but I will write it down just in case. But this place used to be the Eliza and Charles Pinckney Mansion. So their mansion actually sat in the front of this space where those two cars were parked. Eliza's garden was lined up with Five Church Restaurant and came all the way across, and we are standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home. So that's the layout of the place. Communication device people, this is not a place where I'm going to give you questions like what color was George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the big red barn. You will be getting the answers from your spirit boxes, and I will be withholding information on purpose. So I got you. Don't give me anything less than that 3.5 now. So with that said, who the heck were Eliza and Charles Pinckney? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Chucks. That's why we look for secondary clues. I need to know which Charles is actually coming through in the event we have one of the 3 Charles Pinckneys here. So the son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution. That's a big deal for us, but I hate politics more than Nika over here. So we're going to talk about Eliza. She had a much cooler story anyway. Eliza married Charles pretty young, according to today's standards. And I say that because if you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, don't expect numbers like 12 and 14 from the colonial times that she came from. Think of today's standards. And I say that because her husband was over double her age when they married. Kind of a creepy age gap back then, a creepy age gap now. So that goes for the 3 communication device people. So when she married her husband Charles, because her father was over in England and he thought he was dying, he's trying to bring all of his children home one last time. So, hang on one second. So let me get through the history and then I'll just remember what numbers you have, okay? All right. So, she didn't believe he was dying. She stayed put and got married. It's 1744. You don't get married in that specific year for a green card. We're not a country yet. So she did marry him out of love. There's no foul play here. Dad starts sending her gifts as an apology. One of those gifts from England to the space. What was it?
Property.
Okay. One of those.
Land.
Property and land.
Wow.
Look at that. Can't make this stuff up, guys. That's why you guys use my devices. So there's no button that I'm hitting making this stuff go off. But anyway, back to one of the gifts that he sent her from England happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. You guys have been in town for at least a day that I know of. You've seen the word indigo somewhere. Indigo is a plant that makes our blue jeans blue. It makes a dye. So that's how we use it today. But when Eliza got her seeds, she didn't know what to do with it. She had to learn from her servants and slaves how to make a blue dye and keep it cultivated because it's not warm here all the time. When she figured it out, she moved it to a cash crop plantation, got a hold of her dad, and said, the rice plantations are going downhill. We're going to make a killing with the indigo. He's checking you out, Bruce, just so you know.
I know you.
Oh, all the husbands do it, don't worry. So when Dad started giving her contacts on where to sell the indigo, we now have an international businesswoman during colonial times. That is something absolutely unheard of. So that's the boring business stuff of Eliza. Let's get into the weird stuff. So with each communication device, I'm going to kind of give you a focus set of questions of things you can work on. We will be spreading out in this location. We're going to stay away from vehicles, of course, especially with all 3 cameras being out tonight. But we're going to see if we can get some really deep stuff out of you, because you really haven't said much. Sorry, I'm going to keep poking the bear until you start talking. So you're going to go straight after Eliza's death. You can ask her anything you want to. She's pretty open about it. How old she was. She wasn't 65, by the way. What she died from, where she's buried, what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So those are going to be your focus questions. They're all going to be wrapped around her death. By the way, all 3 communication device people, don't get discouraged when you're asking questions and you're not getting any direct answers. Again, I don't want you looking for those answers because he might be asking a question and you might get the answer. Getting my point? That's why we use so many different devices. So with yours, Trees, a couple of things. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back. Ironic, well, by the way, that was within the same year, 5 months apart. The first wife, Eliza, dies in January of 1744, and 5 months later, he marries the one we just talked about. So kind of a jerk move if you really think about it.
Do you know how they died?
I know how the second one died, which
how?
is... that's what he's here to find out.
Oh, because I have something on mine.
What do you have?
Stabbed.
No, she was not stabbed. Now, what you will hopefully be trying to find out is the maiden name of either Eliza. Ironically, they both have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. This way we know which Eliza we're dealing with. I'm also going to give you the marriage and age question. So how old Eliza and or Charles was at the time of marriage. So that thing will give you numbers as well. That's the beauty of it. That's why I love that thing so much. So those are going to be your focal questions. With yours, we're going to make things nice and easy. So that way you kind of get the gist of this. Are you ready? The mansion's not here anymore, right? Can you see the mansion? Okay, so we're going to find out what happened to it, and then when did that happen. We're looking for a date. So those are obviously numbers that we're looking for. And normally if we get the what, everybody, we will normally get 2 or 3 numbers out of the date specifically. So it's obviously a very specific day of the month on a specific year. So we will get sometimes those specific numbers if we get the what. So find out what happened to it. I don't think I really need to keep anybody behind. So I didn't bring out some of the extra complicated things out here tonight, so that's kind of a nice thing on me. I didn't even think of that. I do want to do a few more demos with you, so I'm going to keep you behind with me, just so I can show you a little bit more of like what to look for when we're going through that. But everybody else, let's spread out. Brett, if you haven't started recording yet, go ahead and hit that circle, let it turn to a square, and nice slow motions on your cameras. Just be mindful of people walking around.
I think it said inch.
No, but that's relevant to something else. Let's see if something else pops up. And you heard, what was it, 65?
65 earlier than property.
Yes.
I got like some numbers. So I got 3.9.
Okay.
5.6.
Okay.
13.9.
13.9.
13.9.
Okay.
And then the other one was 77.1.
Got the 77 already. So at this point, don't tell me anything below 15. Okay? So if it's less than 15, don't tell me. All I want to know are the 15s and above. Okay? All right. So everybody, let's spread out. I'm going to keep Tracy behind, and then I'm going to bounce around with all of you and do 2 round robins, and then I'm going to pull you back here again to give you all of the answers, and then kind of give you the quick snapshot of how we piece it all together, and then tell you about our next phase. We'll kind
Do you mind telling me I'm looking for a maiden name that starts with an L and any numbers? Is that what you said?
So the ages of how old Eliza was when she got married, and how old her husband Charles was. Sometimes they'll even give you the year that they got married, which is very interesting as well. All right, so with yours. All right, you guys can spread out. Again, standing still is always optimal, but again, you can always walk around. Just be mindful of the vehicles.
Can I ask something before you go?
Yeah.
Her camera, is there like a infrared light that I'm catching and it keeps like
you
blinking?
don't want to point your cameras at each other.
Okay.
Because hers uses a light technology
to
be able to see depth.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing like all the little dots. That is so unnecessary. People live down here.
Yeah, because I was seeing her light, but then it was like kind of like looking like a little
flicker.
flash.
Right.
Yeah, so I was like,
am
all right, perfect. Thank you. Wait, it's Nika, wait. Like he said, just remember the numbers. Are you hearing anything? Are you
I
hearing?
heard bow and arrow.
Okay, but
And he wrote it down.
what's the question that you're looking for?
What happened?
Okay.
And then when was it, like,
Okay.
and how?
Are you enjoying this?
Yeah.
You gotta stay out of the camera. You gotta stay out of the camera. What?
Somebody like walking over here on
Yeah.
the phone. So when I'm watching this video, I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what I look for. So normally an orb, any kind of like actual electron proton piece of energy,
Okay.
I'm looking for those to appear in screen, not come from outside the frame.
Okay.
So I want it to kind of appear and then move around and disappear in frame.
Okay.
So I also look at speed. Is it an insect? Because an insect can come close and all of a sudden go away, and it's like, okay, I can see that that's an insect.
Okay.
I want it to basically do a
Okay.
and disappear.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's. I was wondering what I was looking for.
yeah, and it's not always a real-time thing.
Okay.
Again, that screen is super small. I really
Yeah.
wish that they would create this on a much bigger screen.
Uh-huh.
That's why I send them to YouTube, so I can study them and then
Okay.
send them to you guys on YouTube.
Okay.
So that way you can watch them on your TV and
Okay.
you can see exactly what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I mean, I watch them on a large computer.
Yeah.
I mean, this in real time, when I'm doing an investigation, I just set this guy up in a room and I just let it run through the investigation.
Okay.
I don't watch it till later.
Okay.
And I usually set it up with laser grids, but I took the laser grids out of the tour because they're not always super productive.
Okay.
And not to mention people have epilepsy and seizures.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Not
that's
good.
not always a fun thing.
Now, do I point up as well, or no? That more of the activity would be.
Completely up to you.
Okay.
Now, if you're thinking of what I told Brett with his camera, his is because it's measuring surface temperature.
Okay.
So there's no temperature on the sky because there's no surface.
Correct.
So it's gonna the blue dot's gonna think it's the coldest thing because there's nothing there to measure. So it's
Okay.
gonna measure the furthest thing out.
Okay.
Which is obviously space.
Yeah.
So again, that's what it's basically doing.
Okay.
With yours, it's a matter of like we don't know where it's gonna be. It can be an
Exact. That. Okay.
So yeah,
That's.
up, down.
So it
left.
could be okay.
But yeah, the slower the
Okay.
motions out of yours, the better.
Perfect.
And again, you don't need to handle it so delicately. It is built, like when I constructed it, I wanted to make sure like it can take a beating. I've given that thing to little kids. If that gives you an idea. So
Yeah.
I noticed you're like very
I'm like
delicate.
very delicate. I know, but you also said very slow, so I'm making sure to pan it very slowly.
Well,
That's why I'm
even
like.
when we weren't recording, you had 2 hands on it.
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
Okay.
So just like the way you have it now.
Okay.
Perfect.
It's okay.
Yeah, just be
All right.
comfortable. Let's
Okay.
have fun. That's the whole point.
I am. This is so cool. I'm like, my daughter's having a blast. That's all I care about.
Yeah, you actually get pretty good with that EMF.
Yeah. How's it going? You getting good numbers?
I got 4.9.
He said higher than 15, right?
No, he said higher above 25.
Okay, now he's going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said what happened to the house?
You have to ask him. I don't know. Yeah, what happened to the mansion?
Mom, I
And
got
then what was the other one?
72.0. Do I tell him?
Yeah. So what happened and then what was the other one and what year?
Yeah. And I said 60. And then there was another question.
Did he say turn off the cameras?
July will normally come up specifically. Like we will get the July something. So we'll see if that something actually pops up. That's what I was hoping that the number would have shown up between the two of you, which it hasn't. Hopefully it does. But this is Philadelphia Alley now. It used to be called Duelers Alley. So this is where some of the duels used to occur, which by the way, you're not going to give me anything below a 7. The reason why is because we have lamp posts. They use electricity. They're going to give off a little bit of electromagnetic field. So above a 7. Got it?
Okay, got it.
So, but we all tell the same story of the same duel that occurred because we can prove it. So if they start coming this way, just let me know so we can part the seas and I'm not standing in their way. But here's how the story goes. A doctor moved down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. If either of the two of you hear the song Brown Eyed Girl, it's not coincidence. It's part of his name. So anyway, getting back to Doctor. He moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has all of this cash, and she has an attorney helping her out with all of the new money. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's cash. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. He comes down here to Charleston to prove that he's not. So on his way in, the coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his stay in Charleston. So, got something going on there, Brett?
It's not cold enough. That's kind of just like a face.
Is it in the, like the ivy leaves? Like the bush leaves behind it?
I just heard detained Amanda.
Detained Amanda. So,
Like right where that bush is. Like, yeah, that bush is cold.
you have the word Amanda. So I want you to remember that these spirit boxes that these two are using are slowed down. So if they were to ask the question, what color is a big red barn? Let's let them pass by.
Go ahead, Mom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we said we were splitting the seas.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. All right. But if we were to ask, hey, what color is the big Red Barn and we heard Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I don't need Rudolph the Nosed Reindeer. I just need the word red. So the fact that you heard detained Amanda, detainment has nothing to do with this story. Amanda does. So I'm excited that Amanda came. Anyway, back to Dr. Ladd. Where was I? Oh, so he was coming into town, right? Coaching set him up. Somebody was walking by, seeing what was about to happen. His name was Ralph Isaacs. I stopped on Ralph for a second because he actually has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Ralph Isaacs, Rhode Island. The letters R.I. were showing up all the time on these red spirit boxes, so I have a digital Ouija board in my bag that we will sometimes use just to see if the letters will actually pop up, and we have had it at least half a dozen times in the past 4 or 5 months, as I'm telling this part of the history. Very interesting. It's like it's on cue. But anyway, Ralph tells the doctor, I know what's about to happen, dude. You don't want to stay here. This guy's going to try to kill you. Come with me. We're going to go to 59 Church Street. 59 is a prominent number normally, by the way, and you can stay with some friends of mine. They'll rent you a room and you'll be safe. The doctor took him up on the offer. They became friends. The longer the doctor stays here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point that he wasn't after Amanda's money. So Amanda gets wind of this. She's moving down soon so they can get married. Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Here's what I'm going to tell you about whistling ghosts. Every haunted city has one. It's a cliche. That's just what we do. There is proof of this one. I'm going to get to it. I'm surprised that from that tour group, nobody whistled as they walked by because they just heard this story in a much different format. But anyway, Ralph and Dr. Ladd go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's just the way the hierarchy works. So, they argue about these plays on the way home. Well, one night they're arguing about Richard III from Shakespeare. And Dr. Ladd thought the new actress in town was fantastic, and Ralph didn't. The argument turns into Ralph insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. It gets ugly and they go their separate ways. But Ralph goes to his friends at the newspaper and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a, you're a disgrace to society kind of mentality. The doctor saw the ad and rebutted with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this and somebody's going to die. So they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, they pointed, Dr. Ladd pointed his gun in the air and he shot. He didn't want to kill his friend. He just wanted to have the courage and bravery to show he was willing to come to the fight. But Ralph, he has his one bullet in his flintlock. And he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. Dr. Ladd doesn't die. He falls to the ground. His friends picked him up, took him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later, November 2nd of 1786. Now, 10 days later, well, during that 10-day span, he actually refused medical treatment. You have to remember that this guy's a doctor. And in 1786, bullet wounds were a lot different than what they are now. He probably tried to bleed this out himself. So, again, it's a very interesting tale because he didn't actually die. Story's just kind of tied to the alley. So what we're not going to spread out because I can't take you all the way through. That's the fun part of the story because I've actually been kicked out of here. We're going to talk about that in a second. So what I'm hoping for is at the next location, we're going to get bleed over from here into there. So obviously these two are listening in intently. I can see it on their faces. So hopefully they're getting stuff while we're here, but they may get stuff at the next location as well. Let's talk about how I got kicked out of here. Well, first off, every tour that comes through here tells you to listen for the whistles. You hear how quiet it is right now? It is always this quiet, even on a busy Saturday afternoon. They say you can hear the whistles from the doctor. Well, guess what? You don't have to listen in real time because we have 3 cameras running plus my voice recorder. If it's going to be there, it's going to be on a recording somewhere. If you're going to try this on your own with your voice recorders from your phones and walk all the way through, just keep in mind that every local knows the story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland Street or Queen Street throws a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night because I have to walk down past the alley to get to my car. So ever since I got thrown out of here, I was like, I might as well mess with the other tours and throw a whistle. Might as well. So here's how I got booted out. I used to take people all the way through. The reason why is because this used to be called Cow Alley before it was Dueler's Alley, which means there was a wall up there about halfway between us and Cumberland Street because this is where they kept the livestock for the city. So, what did you hear?
24.
No, that is not his birthday. That means the bricks on the other side are older than the bricks we're standing on. Those are sun-dried bricks from slave children. There's a full handprint at the end of the alley along with some fingerprint swipes. And I always point it out because we all need to see these bricks, right? So it just shows how far we've come away from slavery. It's all about the history for me. Everybody wants to try to get a reading or wait for something to happen around those bricks, and I treat them the same way I do a grave. I already told you I don't investigate a whole lot of cemeteries in the fashion that we're doing right now, because nothing's going to happen. That's the last place you're going to find that kid. November 26th of 2020, my entire group of 10 is huddled around that brick waiting for something to happen. I'm trying to shoo them along because I know nothing's going to go on, and it's also outside the kitchen window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I'm just trying to be respectful to the neighbor, not knowing I was out of bounds of where we're allowed to take tours. So the new owner came out screaming. My daughter thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at, and we moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I worked in retail management for a long time before I did this, and I don't do Thanksgiving. Many of those years were upper management for Walmart, so you all can feel my pain, you adults looking at me with some sympathy right now. So we moved on. The next day was November 28th. The dates do matter. I'm going to get to that. I told my team what was going to happen because I had to reroute my group. I talked to my partner, and he said, you're only allowed to go down halfway, or you got to reroute the whole tour. So I decided I'm going to reroute everything and just avoid it. So I told my team, I don't believe in the next story because I've never had anything happen there with my gear. I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person, so they all got excited about pirates, but then somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. Kind of like, all right, I didn't tell you who we were going to be investigating yet. The famous female pirate Anne Bonny. So I was like, okay. We get up there, I told them what little bit I did know about pirates at the time because it wasn't much then, and we kind of winged it. Somebody else heard the number 300. I don't know what that means. Write it down, research it the next morning. We were there on November 28th of 2020, Anne Bonny's trial for piracy, November 28th of 1720. The exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. It was kind of like her, hey Nick, I'm over here kind of mentality. So since then, I've read more damn books on pirates than I ever wanted to. And here's my problem with pirates, guys. And it's nothing that I have anything against them. Everything that we know about pirates is based off of pirate lore. I have a master's degree in creative writing. I need facts and data, and especially when I'm doing an investigation. Like, I need numbers, I need dates, I need this, I need that. Everything we know about pirates is a guesstimate. So I have put everything we're going to talk about at the next location, minimum of 2 resources, because I wanted to make sure everything we discuss at least has some type of context to it. Worst case scenario, because it is a hit or miss location, we may get bleed over from this location, but Anne Bonny is actually said to be seen all over town, because there are certain buildings around town that she's attached to of things that she would actually recognize, which is why we're going to the one that we're going to. I'll explain that more when we get there. But it is a hit or miss location. It's either we get a lot or we get nothing. It's not like the Pinckney Mansion site where we're going to have 72 milligauss readings, just so you guys know. It's, again, we may get it, we may not. It just happens. The gate, before we leave. Remember that the alley didn't go all the way through this way? There was a wall there. In the event there was a loser to the duel, this was the shortcut to get over to the cemetery. To drop the body off so they can go celebrate the winner. Otherwise, they'd have to carry the dead guy all the way down to the end, you see how long it is, and go back around, because you can see, like, that's part of the cemetery, that big building right there. They'd have to come all the way back around and carry all that dead weight. So I call this the death gate. The wrought iron itself wasn't there, but the archway definitely was. You can see that the brickwork is definitely original because it matches everything against the wall, but the wrought iron was probably put there in the early 1900s. So a lot of people ask me that, and that's my guesstimate just based on the ironwork of it itself. So, this is weird shit that I learned from the tours, guys, by the way. The city of Charleston does not tell me what I have to tell you guys. That's just not how I roll. This is everything that I've learned along tours on a nightly basis. So, you guys ready to learn about pirates, or do you guys want to tell me about anything else you have going on with your devices? Anything going on with yours, Therese? Nothing? Have you heard anything?
I said run it like I do.
Run it like I do. Anything coming out of yours? Okay. Any numbers come out of yours? Okay, it's a dud so far. So those of you with video cameras, if you want to stop them to get your hands up right,
I mean, a total of from 10:12 to what's now 10:16.
So,
like 5 words came through.
there's a couple of interesting things about this particular street corner. I brought us all the way back here to this ivy wall because the other tours like to cut through here. They all end at St. Philip's. There's like 15 stories around this corner. I usually stick to just the pirate thing, but we heard the name Peter from Kenny on his spirit box, and you gave me the word grave, which kind of gives me that clarification. Charles Pinckney, Eliza's husband, is buried across the street. A lot of times he'll introduce himself in some way, shape, or form, whether it's his name, what his position was, so forth and so on, and then he'll tell us about his second wife, who's not married here. His first wife is also buried across the street, but he likes to tell us about the second wife, the one we all discussed about, the Indigo. She is buried at St. Peter's Church. So he heard Peter, and I was like, yeah, I need something else. And then you have the word grave. So it's almost like Peter's grave. So again, that's in Philadelphia. That's the St. Peter's Church up there. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. I know this is me excited. I'm not a TV show host. Can you guys tell? But like that's where I start to piece things together. But I want something a little bit more. The number 50 doesn't mean anything to me because obviously she was 70 in the year 1793. I don't know what that 50 means. Who heard the number 50?
It's just on here.
It's on there. That might be the number of her grave in the cemetery. I don't know, but I'm going to dive in and see if that actually matches to anything. I don't think it does, but again, I always look. If it's not part of anything, it's just part of your notes. It just won't have any links next to it. The number 30.
How old was he when he died?
He was 58. No, he was. He was 45, so he was 59, because he died in 1758. They were only married for 14 years, which is weird. We'll often get the number 14 with other things wrapped around the life. So he was 59. Yeah, 59. Sorry, keep like going.
Late
back and forth.
50s.
I know.
Late
I'm an English guy,
50s.
not a math nerd. I know I got the temperature thing down pretty quickly. So, where the heck are we now? We're at the gunpowder magazine. Again, very eccentric story. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent, but I told you sometimes the evidence leads us in a different direction. We're here because of that little tiny building behind you. That's the gunpowder magazine. It's a museum now. Those are not crosses on that building. Those are earthquake bolts. I've already mentioned the big earthquake of 1886, so let me explain what an earthquake bolt is. It's basically a turnbuckle. In the event we have another earthquake, like what we did in 86, which we haven't, you can turn the turnbuckles, and it's supposed to tighten the building so it doesn't incur any further damage. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So, but I bring it up because those earthquake bolts are part of the reason why we're here. I told you we're here because this is a familiar building to Anne Bonny, but those are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston ever put in. Reason why is because that's the oldest government building in South Carolina. It's finished in 1713. So we're here because that building was being constructed at the exact same time that Anne Bonny was coming here from her home country. So it's a familiar building. So for those of you that watch the TV shows, you've seen where they use the teddy bear to attract a child ghost. It's the same type of principle. The child would obviously recognize what a teddy bear is. Anne Bonny would recognize what this is. We do have other buildings in that 1700s era, but not this old, which is why we're here. Anyway. The story begins right in the middle of its construction, 1708. The building took 10 years to build, by the way. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No, not at all. But anyway, back in Ireland, a young lady moves here with her father and his mistress. The mistress is Anne's mother. Are you with me so far? Tracy, like I've seen that head spinning. By the way, the three of them are running away from her father's angry wife. So that kind of tells you how scandalous and how many twists and turns this can actually have. But anyway, they land in Georgetown. So that's just north of here between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad bought a plantation. Mom dies pretty quickly. That means he's got to send young Anne down here to be able to sell anything from that plantation to keep things afloat. Hence the familiar building. Here. Anne back home in Ireland was kind of a badass even back then. They say at the age of 7, 8, 9 years old. Yeah, I knew you were 9. I must be psychic. But they say she killed a servant when she was that young with a knife to the belly. So, that is crazy. We have had the terms servant, knife, and belly all show up from 3 different devices, all in the same evening without the other people knowing what the other terms were. Take that for what it's worth. Let's fast forward a little bit. The building was finished in 1713. Pirates are starting to come through Charlestown in 1715. Anne is stoked. Why? She's going to fall in love. She's going to earn her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world at this point. First guy she falls in love with. I said first because there is a handful, and we're going to go through them all. First guy is James Bonny. You already see where this one's going because we've already mentioned Anne's pirate name. Dad didn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They ran away to Jamaica. They got married. Anne Cormac became Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. However, James is not Captain Jack Sparrow like what she was hoping for. This guy turns out to be a privateer. He's a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. This is not who she wants. So she falls in love again. This is John Calico Jack. This is the guy they based Johnny Depp's character off of, just in case we were wondering who this guy was in history. Now, Jack has his own crew and wants to be part of it. You can't put a girl on a pirate ship to get the fat bus. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a crew and look like a guy, then you could be part of the crew, but you're going to be a female in my quarters. She's okay with this because Jack used to cross-dress her as a boy apprentice back home in Ireland to hide her from his wife. She gets it. It's a man's world. Let's be a pirate. But most of us are adults here. Let's put 2 and 2 together. She's a female in his quarters. She's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a female. So, before she starts the show, Jack decides he's going to drop her off in Cuba. Have the baby here, come back later. and come, we'll figure it out. So she goes and has a baby, returns with no child. We have no idea what happened to this baby. None of my research has ever found out. When she comes back, she's also dressed like a female. This makes Jack pretty angry. Now everybody's going to know that he let a girl on the ship. While she was gone giving birth, he captured another pirate crew. They're down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting because that's who Anne is, and she wants to make Jack even more mad. We're on guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the crew that Calico Jack captured. So now we have 2 females, dressed like males, on the same ship. Anne and Mary, well, the young lady that she was flirting with, her name was Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. Her and Mary became friends, possibly lovers, we're not going to really know, but the British find out where they are. They send a fleet of ships to come take on one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are rumored to be the only 2 pirates to come up and fight because they were the only 2 that weren't drunk down below deck. And if they came up with 1 bullet flintlocks, probably because they don't know how to use the cannons. They haven't been pirates for very long. Obviously, 2 ladies with flintlocks are not going to take on a whole fleet of ships from the British Navy. It's not going to work out. They get arrested. As they're being arrested, she looks at her captain, her beau, and says, "Jack, I am so sorry to see you here, but if you would have fought like a man, you wouldn't be hanged like a dog." The word dog shows up on your spirit boxes all the time. Anyway, the judge wants to see the 2 men that fought back so valiantly on their own. He's already tried to hang Calico Jack and the drunk pirates that wouldn't fight. They're dead and gone. Anne and Mary go in front. They reveal their gender. He doesn't care that they're female. They're still pirates. He's still going to hang them. They scream out, "We plead our bellies," which means they're claiming to be pregnant. You can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he delays the hanging, sends them both back to jail, but Dad is still up here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money. He was an attorney back home. He bails out Anne, brings her home. She remarries. That's husband number 2. But guy number 4, we're going to count Mary because we don't really know. She has 4 kids. Dies at the age of 84. So you heard 8,200, right? Well, he heard 8,200 when we got in here. She died in 1782 at the age of 84. So she is actually older than Eliza Lucas was when she passed away. There's a point. Did you get the word locked? Because it's locked. So as far as Mary Reed goes, she dies a few months later in the month of April. That's not good.
That didn't sound good.
Tired. Nope.
He's still driving.
That did not sound good.
Richardson.
Richards. I don't know who that is. But anyway, Mary dies a few months later from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Most folks will tell you that it was something simple like fever. I'm going to say that's BS. Let's make it romantic and call it scurvy. Why the hell not? We're talking about pirates, right? It's probably nasty and bumpy and gross. It was in a Jamaican jail. Use your imagination. So, a couple of things I left out of here. I'm not going to assign questions because you guys know what you're doing with your spirit boxes by now, but what I did leave out on purpose, just so you had something to work with that you didn't know the answers to, I didn't tell you the names of Anne Bonny's parents on purpose. That's the father and the mistress. I also left out the name of Calico Jack's ship, the name of the city where Anne Bonny grew up in Ireland, and the color of her hair. So these are things that we've been commonly getting. Do you have any terms that have shown up so far?
Low message.
Low and message. Neat.
Harvest.
With yours, I will tell you, don't get excited. The closer you go that way, the higher your numbers are going to go because there's 2 electrical poles in the corners that are going to make your device go off. Marcela, with yours, this location is where I caught the biggest orb I've ever caught in the 11 years I've ever been ghost hunting.
Okay.
And when I say biggest, it was just like I said, it appeared in screen, was bigger than my head, moved towards me, turned, and then went up and disappeared in frame. So again, giant orbs have been caught here in the past. Brett, your camera loves to act up in here. It loves to, it's just weird. It looks like almost like the old static TV, only on one person using a spirit box, and their spirit box will stop working. I've seen it happen at least 3 times in the past 3 years. I know that doesn't sound like very often, but it's the same instance. What will happen is their device will literally shut down all the way. Like I turn the power on, and then you move out of the area, your static will go away, and his device will go right back to recording, and that takes 5 devices to do that. I'm not going to say it's going to happen tonight. Again, it's been a while since that's happened, probably about 7 or 8 months, but it was definitely a weird occurrence on the second time it happened, months apart from the first one. So take that for what it's worth. This wall is not your friend, so just stay away from this wall. We have caught somebody sitting on top of that garbage can over there next to that little box, so kind of, if you want to focus around there, that's fine too. As far as your camera, that orb was caught by that brick wall over there by the powder magazine.
Okay.
We're going to explore the space like what we did at that Pinckney Mansion site. Just keep in mind of other people walking by. We don't want to film them, especially if they're going to stop and talk about the gunpowder magazine. They'll be in and out of here pretty quickly.
Okay.
All right. Anything that you may have heard before we spread out?
No, I just said love you.
Love you. We get a lot of love terms. Anything coming out of yours? Nothing at all. All right. Let's spread out. Let's get to work.
Was yours real time when you saw the orb,
No.
or you saw it when?
I caught it after.
Okay. Okay.
Because I was the one in the shot. I was displaying how to
Okay.
use the laser grids,
Okay.
and that orb came right towards me.
Okay. That's
It's beautiful.
so cool. Yeah. Nika, he said don't come close to here. He said stay back there because he said there's a lot of electricity over here. So you got to go to the back.
All the way?
Yeah, let's go back more over there. You hearing anything?
Wait. I think I heard custodian. Anyway, it said follow the instructions on the side.
What side?
I don't know. So I looked, because I was standing right there, so I looked to that side. And
Did you
nothing
tell
was
him?
there. No,
Go tell him.
I don't think it's relevant.
Ask him all. You never know.
He said I can't go, like, I am allowed to go, like, I can't go, what was it called? Like, I can go above 7, but not, like, below 7, and it
Okay.
just said 3.2, I think.
Okay. So then no, anything above 7, he said.
So, like, I imagine it's, like, 72.5.
Yeah, 72.5 is high. Where'd you get that?
No, I didn't actually get it. I was just.
Oh
like,
no, that's the
using
temperature,
sam-
baby.
No, I know. I was just using sample.
Any numbers coming out of you? Don't always expect them out of this location. Anything crazy on your end?
No.
All right, I got a couple things. Give Kenny another minute or two. Listening in intently. You didn't happen to find the dad's name too, did you?
No.
She found the mother's name.
Mary.
Really?
She got a direct answer, so.
Where? Wait, what were you? Was that after follow the directions
Yeah,
or
I
the
said follow the
instructions?
directions on the side, and then I said, what's your mom's name or your parents' name? It said Mary.
Interesting.
My mother's name was Mary.
That's crazy.
Welcome to my world.
This is awesome.
Why you guys come to see me. All right, everybody, let's rein it in. Come on, Kenny. Tracy, if he can't hear me, bring him in. So, Izzy, is this what you were hoping for? Okay, I figured as much. You're going to love this next space because you're going to be the star. It's a lot different than everything else we've been doing, so.
I said follow the directions. I went on the side.
All right,
I
so,
did, and it said Mary.
I am excited. Izzy did get a direct answer. Kenny, did you hear anything else?
Progressive.
Progressive?
Wise.
Wise. Is that the only other term since we've last chatted?
Yep.
Okay, we didn't have any EMF going on here, so Nika didn't give me any crazy numbers. I don't always expect them here. But Izzy actually had a direct answer. She asked what the mother's name was, and that mother's name was Mary. And so, again, no other super great things. We did have that Grayson thing on there. I don't know what that is, but all of that stuff at the beginning is still intriguing to me with the 50 and the Peter's grave and all of that mess. So I'm going to see if number 50 is actually relevant in that space. What you got now? I thought I saw you like raise your hand like I was your school teacher.
Oh no, I was doing like this.
Oh.
I was touching my hair.
Let's go over the answers really quick, and I'll tell you about our weird next space, and it's our last space. So, this is one of the few pictures of Anne Bonny you can find where she actually has a shirt on. The reason why, she used to bare her breast to show men that they were just killed by a woman. I get a lot of teenage boys on this tour. I don't need angry moms. So, but the names of her parents, William Cormack, Mary Brennan. So Mary Brennan was actually a servant for the Cormack family. That's a whole other 30-minute scandal we're not getting into. I just wanted to see if we can actually get an answer out of what Anne's parents' names were, and we got half of it. The weird thing is we normally get the full answer of William and Mary that comes from one spirit box specifically. That's why I asked you, did you get the father's name? It's usually one person that comes up to me and says, were their parents' names Mary and William, or Mary, William and Mary? I'm like, yeah. Like, I just heard that in one phrase coming from a DJ. So, again, that's usually how that one shows up. Calico Jack, I always like to show you what he looked like, because everybody wants to see what they based Johnny Depp off of, because that's fun. Calico Jack was named that because of the jackets that he wore. Those jackets came from British captains that he killed. So Jack's father was a tailor. Textiles were very important to him. So Calico Jack translates to fancy jacket. That's where the name comes from. The name of his ship was called the Kingston. And don't necessarily expect the word Kingston to show up on any of the communication devices that we have out tonight, but the word king would actually suffice in this kind of situation. So this is where we have to kind of mix our tech with what kind of answers can they give us. So we do have a King Street. We don't always get that answer, like that's very seldom that we get it, but I still try every single night just to see if we can actually get anything out of it. Anne grew up in Cork, Ireland, just like you cork a bottle. And then the color of her hair was red. You also heard the word black, am I not mistaken? So I'm excited about black only because there's a lot of other things that go along with the word black, mainly Blackbeard. There is Blackbeard history around this area. And I'm not saying like in Charleston, I'm talking like half a block that way. Blackbeard's men actually used to stay at what we call now the Pirate House, while he stayed on his ships, so that way he can keep an eye on them. But Blackbeard did raid the city looking for medicine for his syphilis from one of his 14 wives. So, yeah, I try to keep it as PG-13 as I can, so sorry. But things did pop up. We do have the word black, but I'm specifically interested in finding his real name. His real name was Edward Teach. So we'll see if any of those things pop up. It's funny that you were asking about the hair color and you got the word black. I'm like, okay. She obviously didn't know that Anne's hair color was red. So I normally give that one to you, but it was kind of funny that you heard the word black instead. Here's what the next space is going to look like. We're going to head up to Washington Park, about 2.5 blocks away from here. That's our longest hike, so my apologies. But what we're going to be doing is what we call the Estes method. Has anybody ever heard of that before?
That's just on Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
The Estes method.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take Izzy, and we're going to blindfold her, and put noise-canceling headphones on her. My mom's going to sit with her while I tell everybody else the history of the space, and she's not going to know anything. So when we come back and talk to her, we're going to talk to her as if she were the ghost that we're hunting down. And these two are not going to know anything, unless, of course, you don't trust Nika to go 5 feet away from you. But the rest of you are
oh my God, please take her.
Okay. So the rest of you are going to know the rest of the history. And Kenny, don't take this the wrong way. I sometimes will do a double blind, but you really haven't given us much out of it. So I normally look like, hey, are they struggling with it, that kind of thing. And that's okay if you did, because you've never done this before. But I usually take the person that has done better out of the two. But with that said, you're not going to know anything, and you're just going to tell us everything you're hearing out of that spirit box, and I'm going to be asking you questions, and you're not going to hear me. That's going to be super great. So the reason why we do that is so that way she's not looking for Anne Bunny's hair color of red. You guys get my point, right? So Tracy, if you've seen this on TV, you'll attest, like, I'm about to show you, like, what they do on TV can be very, very legit. And sometimes it might be, like, reading a little bit more into it just to see if it's relevant to our space. So I'll give you lots of tips of when we get there. The park is beautiful, just so you know, and I call it beautifully creepy. So it's beautiful during the daytime, beautiful at night. For those of you that want to take pictures while you're hearing the history, by all means, do so. Other tours will be cutting through there. We stay out of their way as always, but you guys get the point. We're going to be also passing Circular Church Cemetery. Anybody wants to get footage of that with the camera that you're using, by all means do so. Just know I just will not stop the pace. It is gorgeous, and we're going to go all the way around it to get up to Washington Park. But those graves are like literally right against the fence. Like you can touch them. Like they're that close. So some people get really like infatuated with that. But you won't need to record along the way because again we're going 2.5 blocks and we don't need the Blair Witch. You got the point.
Offensive to touch the graves?
It's offensive to what we call do rubbings on the grave. That's where you take a piece of paper. But no, it's not offensive to touch them physically. But most people want to get the information from it because it's inlaid into the stone. So they take a piece of paper and a pencil and they rub on it. We call that rubbing. It's actually illegal in the state of South Carolina. It'll ruin the grave. So that way they have the information from the grave on a sheet of paper.
It's kind of like the raised, you know, like the Barbie thing that we used to do, and like.
Why would they do that?
Because they want to know the words.
You can't read the words all the time, so they want to see like how it's inlaid. Because sometimes it's so worn off from people touching it, and over time, these graves are hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see what we can find. What do you think, Nika? You gonna put your sister under? I'm assuming. Are you two sisters?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure you're going to be okay. If we have to tap you out and pull you out of this whole thing, Mom's going to tap your leg. If you're talking too loud, she's going to tap your shoulder. You have to remember, we can hear you. You need to whisper. We're going to be recording it with all 3 cameras so you can watch it later, and that way you can see it from all angles of what's actually going on around you.
Okay.
First thing you need to know is you're going to need to whisper. That's a big deal. Again, we have neighbors nearby, and we don't need all the other tours like looking around like, again, what's he doing now? We're all going to close in really tight around you so nobody can see what's going on here. I will not be writing anything down. That way I can stay focused on what's going on. This is also an okay time to answer yes/no answers. So what you don't know what I'm asking. I might ask a yes/no question to the ghost and say it's okay to answer a yes/no question. Trying to think. I'm only going to keep you under for 10 minutes, by the way. So if you're getting a little too heavy breathing, Mom's going to tap you out early. If she taps you out at 10 minutes, it's not going to feel like 10 minutes to you. Time's going to pass very, very fast. Also, when we get you tapped out, you're going to pull your own earmuffs off and start taking everything off, and you're going to stay seated. This can get very disorienting. I don't need a baby giraffe falling on the ground. So just stay seated for a few minutes until we wrap things up. Any other major questions that you may have?
What does heavy breathing mean?
Like,
No, but like, what does it mean if I'm breathing heavily?
Oh.
Like, why do I have to tap out?
If that means you're getting a little too excited and things are, how do I put this?
too stimulated?
Yeah, because I'm taking away senses from you. Like, you're not going to be able to see anything, and you're only going to be able to hear what's going on here. So you might get like a little excited and worked up, and that's when I pull you out. Because I don't need you going into a seizure or hyperventilating in any way, shape, or form. So, you're going to...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Tap if she's breathing too hard, and tap on the shoulder if she's being too loud.
You got it.
Yeah. Joking.
All right, so, blindfold first.
Okay.
Got it.
Bye.
And you're also not going to touch your spirit box because I can hear that it's already running. So do not touch the spirit box once we get you under. I want to make sure you're not cheating and turning down the volume to hear what I'm saying.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Then earbuds,
Oh.
and then earmuffs. I'll hand them to you. All right, everybody, let's get in real nice and tight in that camera. Any words showing up on your word list that I need to know about? Sometimes the answers go to your other spirit boxes. So, Tracy, you might actually want to take his spirit box and listen in, since he's taking over your camera. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Got nothing so
Hey,
far.
sis.
Small.
Okay, so it's 11:03. We are looking to speak to Henry Timrod. If you are here, I want you to tell us what your occupation is, please. Yeah, Mom, you almost want to have stand and keep the camera on her specifically. I want her to have that footage.
On mine.
Whatever
She
you
says
do.
she wants me to record.
Let's see. Well, she's going to have that recording.
Okay. Well,
Henry Timrod, can you please tell us what your
People.
occupation is? What is your occupation? Nice and tight.
Red.
Red.
Every time that I kick,
Henry,
Runner's Day.
I want you to tell us what your occupation is. We're going to keep things nice and simple to begin with, unless you want us to move forward.
We van this image.
Henry, do you want us to move forward? That's a yes/no question. Are you ready to answer different types of questions?
Go down. No.
Okay, let's stick with your occupation then. You gave us the word red. Can you tell us what that's referring to? That's kind of part of the story I just told about you. About your blood book.
Red.
Okay, we'll take that. Slight. Why was the page red? Can you tell us why the page was red?
Why?
Try again. Why was the book red? Henry Timrod.
Rising from the sun.
Let's try again.
One more time.
Why was the book or the
Only-
page red? Were you sick? That's a yes/no question.
Big front. I've been losing sleep.
Were you sick?
I don't know.
Well, you were. Can you tell us what disease you had? What caused your death?
Cry to sleep.
Henry, tell us what disease you had.
No, you can't hear.
Okay, we'll move on. That's okay. Let's go into your wife. That's a happy thought for you. Can you tell us your wife's name or how you met her? He was her school teacher, just so you guys know. Another creepy age gap kind of mentality.
What the heck?
Henry, tell me about your wife. Tell me about your wife.
Oh,
Henry Timrod. How did you meet your wife? Tracy, you got anything?
blinding.
Well, we do blindfold people, which is funny. We do get the word blind during this a lot. Like it shows up somewhere.
The great city.
What great city? What great city did you write about? Come on, Henry, you seem to have slowed down. We were doing okay there for a minute. Is somebody else
Speak to
somebody else here with you? Is there another spirit here with you? That's a yes/no question.
a year.
Henry, I think we're getting off topic.
Shouting louder.
5 minutes she's been on there, just so you guys know. She definitely can't hear us, by the way. I could definitely see that she's not.
I can't.
Can't what? Henry. We're getting slim on time again. Shall we start talking about your son?
I suppose.
Okay, tell us what your son's name was or what day he was born. What day was your son born? The number will be okay.
90s.
When was your son born? What day of the month? I'll take the number or the holiday.
My heart.
Henry, we're asking
Players too.
we're asking a lot of questions. You can answer anything I've asked so far about your wife, your son, how you died, your occupation, anything you can grab. This is Isabella. She can hear you. Even though she's blinded, you know how this situation works. We've done this plenty of times now.
Just please. Stand on.
Henry, let's be more specific. Answer any of the questions I may have already asked.
5 employees at the post office. Clean, beautiful home.
Whenever I ask if there's other spirits here, we normally get the number 5.
Tell him on.
Who else is here with Henry Timrod? Because I only want to speak with Henry.
Young divers.
Who else is here?
Please. Someone.
Yeah, it's too vague. Let's get back to Henry Timrod. Henry,
I go.
we need you to come through a little bit stronger because we're running out of time and you haven't given us many answers. Henry, what answers do you want us to know before we tap her out?
Balcony. Insurance. Any longer.
Do you need us to stop? That's a yes, no question. Do you want us to stop? Still no answer. Henry, I think we're going to be done here. One last word. What do you want us to know? Do you want to say goodbye to us?
Speak to me.
Henry, I talk to you every night.
I'm listening to you.
But you need to answer us.
Turn around.
We need to have a conversation.
That end of the floor.
All right, Mom, go ahead and let's tap her out.
Okay.
Henry, I will see you tomorrow night, sir.
Endorsement. Alright.
Okay, first, how do you feel?
I felt something like touching my leg.
Yeah, we kind of saw that.
That was a little.
You guys can stop your
I
cameras
saw
that
like
have them.
something like crawling.
Once I get back to the office, so once I check in your tickets, it'll